Greetings one and all to another Dark Rider Pony Analysis. I am the Nightmare Rider, Mage of Mine, reminding you, as always, that even a cheeseburger can be deconstructed to its original source. Twilight Time is, on the surface, quite a straightforward episode. Nothing initially stood out to me as a key point to frame analysis around, but the more I thought about the unfolding events, the more substance I actually found in this episode. I've said before that I don't mind episodes where the intent is to turn your brain off and just have fun, but this episode does actually mark a trend of improvements to the Cutie Mark Crusader episodes that I think is worth noticing to those who choose to look a little deeper into this cartoon. The key thing that makes this episode work is how subtle the character development is. I know that by the nature of the show, it does tend to spell out and explain the lessons the characters learn. I don't have a problem with that, as long as the actions of the characters within the episode work within the context of the plot, showing the lesson to be genuine. They always show you the development happening before explaining, okay, this is what we just saw for the benefit of the children who may be watching. However, with Twilight Time, I've noticed a couple of Brony analysts, primarily Dr. Wolf and Collapsic Brony, have gotten the impression that there isn't any new character development or progression within this episode. While many CMC episodes have been a retread of Find Your Cutie Mark stories, this is not purely the case with Twilight Time. All of the character development we see isn't through the obvious changing of actions, but subtle differences in how Dave Polsky writes their characters, making them feel more three-dimensional, even if this isn't front and centre display in the episode like Rarity Takes Manhattan. The best place to start is with Twilight Sparkle herself. It's been a running critique in Season 4 that Twilight's role as a princess has been largely ignored. The writers have a difficult challenge this season. We need to make the events of Magical Mystery Cure have a clear change in dynamic for the story as mandated by Hasbro, without removing Twilight completely from her friends, which got her to this point. I think it's worth considering just what a princess is in the context of Equestria before we try and explain why she hasn't been treated as a princess. This episode actually confirms a headcanon I've had for quite a while regarding princesses, mainly why they are called princesses in this universe and not queens. The answer that I have come to, founded by Twilight's student-teacher relationship to Princess Celestia and backed up by all things Equestria girls, is that princesses are a teacher or a mentor figures to their pony subjects. Both princesses and queens will enforce some sort of basic rule of law to maintain order, but these roles differ in how they teach their lessons to their subjects. Queens and kings tend to enforce a dictatorship law on what ponies should do, while princesses guide and teach their subject the values of them to come up with the conclusions by their own free will. So now Twilight is the princess of friendship, passing on her lessons and guiding other ponies to their own conclusions through suggestions rather than actively trying to be an authority figure. The CMCs are still on their quest to find their cutie marks, but Twilight is now actively teaching them specific skills so that they can have a more constructive method of finding their talents. Even if it isn't a destined speciality, they are still learning new skills for the sake of learning, something that Twilight is always passionate about. She is even willing to give the new swarm of young ponies the benefit of the doubt. If they truly do want to learn from her, then she is more than happy to be their patient teacher. Throughout this episode, she has had the best interest of the CMCs in mind, discussing the boundaries for both of them, providing a healthy working relationship. While admittedly Twilight has been more of a plot device than an actual character for many episodes of this season, I see this as a flaw of including every member of the main six in the majority of episodes, even when they don't need to be there. It's hard to write characters for the situations where they wouldn't normally have a purpose to contribute to the story, so they end up being taken out of character or have one entire character focused around one single trait for comedy's sake. Pinkie Pie. Here, however, there are only three focused perspectives that the episode needs to generate a conflict and get the plot going. Twilight and the CMCs versus Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon, henceforth known as the Brat Ponies, although we do additionally get a nice one-off joke from Pinkie Pie, as well as showing that she has a day job. This episode is actually one of the better portrayals of the Brat Ponies, as usually they are simple generic bullies that are extremely mean-spirited for the sake of being antagonists. However, here, we finally get some much-needed depth, showing the meaning behind their cutie marks. The CMCs comment that they are always the privileged centre of attention without ever needing to put a significant effort into anything. Diamond Tiara is always a spoiled brat princess, and Silver Spoon was born with a proverbial silver spoon in her mouth, always following the higher up, which is the princess. So when Sweetie Belle lets slip that the CMCs go to regularly hang out with Princess Twilight, the Brat Ponies instantly feel threatened by this. Yes, they may very well have known the CMCs to talk to Twilight Sparkle before, but now Twilight is a well-known celebrity figure and an alicorn princess. So they're using the status to gain the CMC's trust, slowly exploiting them and the other children, thinking that they can be entitled to Twilight time, with the ultimate goal of undermining Twilight's trust so the CMCs no longer have any higher privilege than they do. We can see this through many sarcastic remarks, toning down the spitefulness, yet still having the look of menace on their face as they pull the strings of manipulation on everyone. I initially questioned why the CMCs were suddenly desiring popularity, but considering that they are kids and just want their efforts to be recognised, this is something that's easily exploitable by the Brat Ponies. It's something that doesn't have any evidence as to why it can't be in character for them. Yet at the same time, they never lose any of their pure intentions. Sweetie Belle makes a grand effort to keep everything under control and compromise, keeping the newfound popularity while still respecting Twilight's boundaries. I really like how it comes off as an initial shock to them that the Brat Ponies are being so nice to them, and the dialogue continues to be smart by making constant suspicious references throughout, waiting for the moment that the Brat Ponies will ridicule them. By the time they think they've reached the height of their popularity, that's when the Brat Ponies spring their trap and reveal that they are creating a facade of privilege so that everyone has an excuse to be with Princess Twilight. Once Pipsqueak reveals the real intentions of upping their own privilege through Twilight, the best character moments really start to show. You'll notice throughout this analysis I've had very little to critique in terms of narrative flaws here. Everything I felt that was initially wrong are just minor nitpicks that can easily be justified given how the characters are acting. The only real thing I could think to bring up is how quickly the CMCs go from failing at their practice tasks to succeeding at similar tasks that they gave up hope on retaining their Twilight time. However, while the episode isn't a standout amazing as a story like Rarity Takes Manhattan, it's still interesting since we see Twilight seeing right through the Brat Ponies' plans and giving the CMCs a second chance, since they have shown real progress through their resolute honesty to learn under Twilight for the sake of learning, rather than just a popularity boost. This does kind of make the moral a little disingenuous because they've been so balanced the whole time, but that's the absolute worst I can say about this episode. Overall, Twilight Time is one of the best CMC episodes to date. While it doesn't do anything particularly outstanding like Flight to the Finish did, it still gives us enough well-written characters, funny visuals, and relatable plot development. The only reason I don't give it top marks is because it's being content in achieving a simple goal, being a minimal thrills plot with some added character depth to make the story feel more polished. I commend Dave Polsky for another excellent effort. Twilight Time gets a final grade of an A-. Until the next review, this is the Nightmare Rider, Mage of Mine, riding out.